China faces a serious problem of gender imbalance. New figures show there are now nearly 34 million more males in China than females. And another concern in China, an aging population. Data shows China is aging fast, projecting that 1 in 4 Chinese will be over the age of 60 by 2030. For more insight into China's demographic crisis, we're now joined by Yong Cai. He is an assistant professor at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and a fellow at the Carolina Population Center. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor.
Thank you for having me. Good evening.
What are some of the biggest concerns with an aging population within a huge population? Nearly 15% of Chinese are over the age of 60. Talk to us about the bigger picture here.
Okay, the bigger picture is China is basically joining the global trend. It's not entirely new that Japan, we can look at the picture of Japan, look at the picture of the United States. We are all aging together, but the speed of China is, the speed of happening in China is much, much faster than all the other countries. And given its scale, and given especially the social infrastructure required to take care of the elderly, the health hospitals, the pension system, all those things, China is not prepared for to be an aging society. So that's the big picture.
Does China's gender imbalance, how much of that issue plays into or affects the aging population? They must be directly related.
So those two things are related in at least two ways. First, China's gender imbalance is partly created by the people, under this one-child policy, people could only have one child, and when they have the option, or they're forced to have the option, they choose to have a son. So that's part of the reason fertility is low, but at the same time, there is a gender imbalance. Secondly, in China, there's still a tradition, and it's in the Chinese constitution that it's children's responsibility to take care of the elderly, and mostly, according to Chinese tradition, it's son's responsibility is to provide old age care. So that's part of the reason that the Chinese prefer to have at least a son. So those two things are related. So when you don't have enough children, at the same time, you try to have at least one son combined together, you have aging population, you have imbalanced sex ratio.
Let's talk more about this one-child policy. It's something that's been relaxed after 3 decades. Are you surprised by the number of eligible couples who have not decided to have a second child?
Yes and no. I was not surprised in a way. This is much lower than government's projection. Government has been always err on the more optimistic side, but at the same time, according to my own study and other observations of what's happening in China, we knew that before, when the policy was announced, that the take-up rate would be relatively speaking low. This is quite consistent with what we found in Jiangsu province, where we studied from 2008 to 2011.
So what's the solution here? Do you think there are any ways to change these trends?
There is no simple solution. Demography is just like a slow tsunami. People change their mindset, everyone working together. It's going slowly, but I think it's a long-term it will require some long-term policy. For example, China, try to promote gender equality, so that you cannot change that overnight, and will require lots of effort to protect women's rights. China, right now have quite generous maternal benefit for people working in the state sector, but there's no such thing for if you are I should not say no such a thing, but there are lots of leeways for the private sector to not provide maternal protections. So it will take a long time to provide those things.
All right, Professor Yong Cai, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us from North Carolina.